Hey everyone, this is Dave Albury, and I want to say to Justin, thank you so much for inviting me to do this tonight. I probably should wait a little bit until some more folks get on here, so I'll give it a couple of seconds before I dive too deep. But as Justin shared, I live in Virginia. I live here in Lynchburg, Virginia, so it's a little bit later where I am, and that's okay. Got a few people on here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So yes, Dave Albury. I live in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I started using Plexus products back in 2017. And I am like most people, especially us hard-headed guys, that said, you know what, I'm not doing the business. I'll do the products. And I shared a couple weeks ago that my daughter strong-armed me into doing this. But I had been at that point in corporate America in a regional sales manager role and managing operations for my company in 3 states, at one point 4, but had spent the last 20 some years climbing the corporate ladder. And that was one of the reasons why I said, no, I'm not going to do the business. That's good for you guys. You go ahead and do that. And I had actually been involved in multi-level marketing, network marketing years ago with another company. So I had that experience, and I did okay. I was living out of the country at the time, so it was a little more difficult, and it was before social media. But so I had that experience, and I knew that this is a business that worked, but I was a little prideful. I thought, I've got this great job doing what I'm doing. I've achieved a level with the company and in my career, and I don't need to do that. And that was probably one of the biggest mistakes I could have made at that time. But I try not to have too much regret about that. So I was, like I said, having this career and using the products, and I was experiencing health changes, great health changes. And I shared that in my last video a couple weeks ago. Well, I last year had been with my company for a little over 23 years, and I had just experienced so much change over those 23 years with my company, and restructures and new leadership. And I've had all kinds of bosses and managers along the way, some good ones, some bad ones. And I've had folks that have taken my ideas and used them and put their name on them. I have had folks manipulate situations and use situations to strong arm me into doing things I didn't want to do, counsel me for things that were not my fault, but because somebody else had an agenda and walked into someone else's office higher than I was, I got caught in the crosshairs. So I had experienced all these things, and I was looking at my P&L, and my region was delivering about $6 million, or going to deliver about $6 million in bottom line profit to my company for 2018. And I was calculating what my bonus was going to be. And because of the way that they had structured the budgets and the bonus plan, my bonus after taxes for the year was less than $4,000. And I thought, there's something wrong with this picture. I am working too hard. I'm traveling all the time, and I am not being paid what I'm worth, and I am worth more than this. And meanwhile, I was watching my daughter, who is now a diamond with the company, and at that time she was an emerald, becoming sapphire, and just growing this amazing business. And so it was around November of last year, after one more ridiculous staff meeting and dealing with a boss that just was managing through fear and manipulating us, and just, it was just inappropriate things, but you could never say anything, you could never complain because you were hit a target on your back. And I just had, kind of reached my limit with it. And by December, I called my daughter and I said, okay, I am going to do this business with you. I'm 50 at that time. I was 55. I said, I'm 55 years old. What else am I going to do? This is something I know that works. I see too many people that I know doing so well with this business. So it's my turn. My plan was that I was going to start in January to start building a team and give it about a year. And probably after a year and a half, my intent was I wouldn't probably have replaced my income, but I would have been making enough to leave. And that was my plan, to, in less than 2 years, leave my job so that I could be home full time. Well, January 2, I started, and I didn't know anything. And so I called my daughter up and said, hey, Ashley, is it possible to go silver by the end of January? She says, oh my gosh, Dad, sure. I don't know. So I just started doing what she told me. I was following all of the IPA plans that she would lay out in our team page. And I just did the things every day that I was supposed to, before work and after work, and during my lunch hour, because when I wasn't traveling, I was working at home. So I was doing all this around my regular job hours, and I started to have growth. I went silver before the end of the month in January, and I was on my way to super silver, which is probably one of the ranks that's not on that graphic, but it's when you have 10 people in your organization. And so I started to have momentum going into February. And at the end of February, we were invited to a conference call. And when we dialed into the WebEx or the Skype meeting, it was a recording. And we found out that our US operations was going to be restructured. And the reason that I and so many of my other peers were invited to this is because we were going to be affected. So I'm not going to go into all the details of that, but a very long story short, I found out once the process started, it was literally a week later, and on March 14th, I received the call that I was no longer employed by my company. And that was a pretty rough day. 23 and a half years of loyalty and working hard and great performance and climbing the ladder was gone. And there wasn't a whole lot of consolation in the fact that there were over 150 other people that were released that same day. And so I do want to share this for any guys, especially who are considering this. Don't be like Dave. I was hard-headed, I was prideful, and I thought I'm too good for this. And we're not. I should have started sooner. Honestly, I had people that said, hey, why don't you do it? You're using the products. And I should have, but I didn't. And so I don't want you to be like me. And I'm not going to bash any companies, because, there's nothing wrong with doing a job for your family, supporting your family, but there is a better way. And this is a better way. And I was going to continue to work that job until I could do this full time. Well, they didn't give me a choice. So my story is a little bit different than most. I was kind of forced into this full time, and I thought because of the severance, and I was with them for 23 years or over 23 years, I had a decent severance. So I decided, I'm just going to knuckle down. I'm going to make this work. And this is what I'm going to do. And so that was the path that I chose in March to do this. And right now I'm currently at Senior Gold. Again, that's going to be in the graphic in the comments somewhere, and you can see what that means. And I'll tell you, Justin alluded to this. It's something that changes you. I made a comment to somebody that, the guy that I was in January, as bad as I wanted to, be at Ruby by summer and, be Emerald by the end of this year. Those were great goals, but the guy that started this in January wasn't ready for that kind of success. I was somebody that was used to being a manager, being a boss, but talked about being a leader. I didn't understand what being a true leader was. And this process has been life-changing for me. I have learned so much about myself. I've changed. I look back at who I was. Like I said, I wasn't ready, to be Diamond, or Ruby for that matter. So it's been an amazing journey, and I spent a lot of time truly, I'm a man of faith and was raised in the church, and I spent so much time over the last few years running from God and building pride in my life. And I've had to spend a lot of time over the last 10 months breaking all of that down and becoming the person that I need to be and that God wants me to be as well, and who my wife needs me to be. So outside of starting to build a business and earning money, which you do earn money, it's real. So outside of all of that, it has changed me as a person. And at convention, and I've heard several people say this, and Bob Heilig mentioned it at convention, that this business, it's a character development process with a comp plan attached to it, and that could not be farther. There couldn't be more truth to that. And I have just watched the progression in myself over the last 10 months, and it's such an amazing thing to be sitting on the couch with your wife at night watching television, and you're just talking about things, and your wife look at you and say, "You've changed." And that meant more to me than anything. So this business has done amazing things for me as a person as well. Fears about this, so for me it was a little different. I was kind of kicked out of the nest. I didn't have that full-time job anymore. So there were a lot of fears attached to building this from scratch and not having a job. And I'll tell you, there were, in the beginning, lots of nights where, you wake up at around 3:30 or 4 a.m. and, for you believers out there, you know what I'm talking about. The enemy is just coming at you. You're not going to make it. You're not going to build this business. You're never going to be diamond. You're never going to make it to gold. You're never going to make it to senior gold. You're not going to make money. It's just not going to work for you. You just need to give up, go get another job, and forget about it. And those kinds of that head trash, as we say, is just always there. And there have been some days where I am just on the mountaintop, and it's an amazing experience. And there are days where you're just down in the trenches and you're struggling and making it work. And it has developed character in me. It has changed me, and I have becoming a better leader and understanding what that truly means, because a boss isn't really a leader, and you could manage people, but if you are not inspiring people, they're not going to follow you. And that's really what leadership is. And you want people to want to follow you. So I'll never forget one of the things my daughter Ashley said to me when I called her last December and said I was going to do this. I had been, again, Dave last year was a very different guy, and I was very political on Facebook, and not in a nice way. I was one of those people, and I took pride in unfriending people. My daughter said to me, she said, "If you're going to do this with me, Dad, you cannot be angry political elf on Facebook." I said, I know. I'm going to stop all that. So people that look at me now and see me on Facebook, they're calling me all the time like, "Oh my gosh, what's happened to you?" I said, I know. But this has been a truly rewarding experience. And there is real money here to be made. I've seen my niece who is at Senior Ruby, my daughter Diamond, a friend of mine who is Emerald on her way to Sapphire. I've seen so many other people that are doing well with this business. So it's real. And guys, I got to tell you, do not be skeptical about doing this. Don't be afraid to jump in. This is an honorable profession, and this industry and what Plexus is doing, it's exploding, and this is an amazing time. It's not too late to do this. It's not too late. What it's done for us as a family, as I shared, for me personally, just some huge character changes that have been amazing. But like I said, I know I'm not replacing my paycheck from corporate America overnight, and that hasn't happened yet. But the things that I wanted to see are happening, and that was building a business, seeing an income, and seeing it continue to steadily grow, and that is happening. So I, at the beginning of the year, did a session, an online session with Bob Heilig, and I set some goals for myself. And I've always been a big goal setter, but I set some goals for myself at the beginning of the year that crossed into my personal life, for my business, and also for my spiritual life. And it's amazing to see how those things have just one by one and consistently started falling into place. And like I said, I'm a big believer in goals. And something that I used to do with my team is an exercise called having a BHAG. And if you've never heard that, it's BHAG, and it stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. And that is a real thing. It was from a book called Built to Last. I can't remember the names of the authors, but it's really all about, because I have short-term goals and even some long-term goals, but having a BHAG is about something that's transformational and it's long-term. And so outside of my short-term goals of, next year for me, I want to be at Senior Ruby or above. And so that's on the horizon. And I don't get so laser focused on that. I just focus on doing the things I need to do, doing what I need to do to every day move the needle a little bit. But for me, my BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal, if I want to be diamond, and I think I heard Tara Castaneda talk about this, is that if that's where you want to be, then you've got to tell yourself that that's what you are. And every day I have something here in my office I look at that says diamond on it. And that is what I'm telling myself I am, because that's what's going to happen. And like Justin said, if that's not what you want, if you don't want to pour that much into this, if you just want to, cover your car payment, cover your mortgage payment, you can do that. It's not that hard. But you'd be surprised how it takes off. But my BHAG, and if I want to truly be diamond in this business, my BHAG to be transformational, and I'm going to read it because sometimes I screw up the words a little bit, but to help thousands find hope, health, and a better way. And that's my BHAG. And I started this, as I said, at the beginning of the year. I was somebody who was, as my daughter said, angry political elf. And I wasn't attracting people to me. And that has changed, and it has transformed me in the process. If you want to stay where you are and not be any different, then don't do it. But if you want to truly see your life transform, do this business. I guarantee you it's going to change you, and it's going to change your wallet. It's going to change your life. And I am so grateful that my company released me, because it's allowed me to be home with my wife and to focus on my relationship with her and to spend more time with her as I grow this and develop it. And it's something that happened before I thought it would. So they did me a favor. I think I have probably talked way too long. I want to thank Justin again for asking me to do this. Guys, this is something that will change you and will change your life and change your finances. Do it. I promise you won't be sorry. Y'all have a great night. Thanks again. And don't forget to refresh the page in a few seconds. And Carl Spawn is going to be up next and tell us his story. Night, everybody.